Hi, everyone. I'm DeFi Dad. You're watching episode 46 of Yield TV. Hey, so we are back on Thursday, December 10th, 2020. And today I've got the pleasure of interviewing the founder of SuperRare, John. And John, we're not going to share your last name, right? I assume
it's top secret.
We'll protect your identity. But yeah, man, welcome to the show. It's like awesome to finally get to talk to you about this. And I've just been kind of grateful for all the work you guys have been doing at SuperRare the last few years. But anyways, how's everything going?
Awesome. Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. Love the show. And yeah, very excited to be here.
Yeah. So some background for folks is SuperRare is a digital art marketplace. You can check it out at superrare.co. So I've known SuperRare for the last few years, and I would always run into you guys, especially with Ethereal. When I was working on the Ethereal Summit, we would coordinate and have art displayed. But I gotta say, like I am a perfect example of someone who, although I've always loved art, and I think I always had some appreciation for what you did, it took me until I got into VR to really say, holy shit, this is so cool. I want to spend time in the metaverse. I want to be with a community that spends time here. I want to eventually own some parcel, let's say, in crypto voxels. And how am I going to make it my own place? I want to own some digital art. And so I've had this real light bulb moment. And so anyways, I really want to dig into why the digital art space has grown so much. I really want to make sure that we encourage people to know that they haven't missed the boat here. You can buy a single piece and maybe that's the end of your collecting. But I've found that most people I speak with, it turns into quite an addiction. And it doesn't have to be an expensive addiction. You can spend as little as I've bought a piece for, I think, as little as 0.03 ETH. And so anyways, we'll dig into that. So John, could you kick off with, how did you found SuperRare? And you'll have to remind me, how long have you been working on it?
Sure, yeah. So I basically had kind of two passions. One was, so I got really into processing and kind of generative art in college. So that was always just kind of a passion and hobby. And then I was living in New York, kind of learned about Ethereum, got super excited about just Web3, the internet of value, thinking about new and interesting business models for creatives, what can we do here that, we haven't done before. And so just kind of following the space, seeing what was happening with the NFT standards, I really felt like that was going to be a big unlock for, what would be a huge digital art economy, just thinking about trends and technology with VR and AR, displays getting pretty cheap, projectors getting really good. I felt like, the contemporary art market was going to start to kind of grow into something, that was a lot more natively digital. And I felt like NFTs were kind of the unlocking piece. So I was working with one of the consensus folks in Bushwick and decided to kind of strike out on my own because I had this idea for something that would be an art marketplace, but also is a very social experience. And yeah, started prototyping SuperRare kind of late 2017. So off the tail of the ICO hype train.
Yeah, I didn't realize you've been building it since 2017. Wow. Another example of, I think people forget, some of the most valuable things on Ethereum right now they've been being built for many years. It's just that many of us are just learning now, oh, holy shit, I can use this and this is really valuable.
We launched right into, the bear market. So we went to mainnet April 2018, and it was crickets more or less. There was like a few. I think we had like launched with a couple artists. There were a couple collectors. It was extreme. We all knew each other, first and last name, and yeah, it was kind of. It was slow, steady growth. So exciting. Like there were more people joining the ecosystem, but I'd say the first 2 years, kind of, predictable growth, new artists would join, occasionally new collectors. We still all knew each other. And then about a year ago, I think related to what you were saying about some of the VR stuff, or like crypto voxels really started to come into its own. And we started seeing these very cool, very elaborate VR galleries being built. And I think that really was a catalyst for a lot of folks who were like, kind of like you said, you're like, oh, I get it now. Like, this is fucking awesome.
That's right. It takes some time unless you're already in the metaverse, and the metaverse seems to have, gained that much more traction with the pandemic. One common example of having, I guess, benefited from SuperRare art is that early on in the pandemic, when I started going to the WIP meetup, I then just started making a conscious decision to meet in crypto voxels with colleagues. And it's pretty cool because like I could just share the link and then we end up in like a gallery of art. And I got to say, I've never struck out with any colleague. I've never had a single friend show up for a meeting and not say, holy cow, this is so cool. Like what the heck are we in? Because you can see crypto voxels on your, all you need is a laptop or a computer. And then you can benefit from all of this beautiful art. And really like you even get that sense of depth when you look at crypto voxels. Even with a tiny screen, I've looked at it on my cell phone before, and I'm like, it's like nuts how you get immersed in this world.
Yeah, you get sucked in. I love what Matthew from Sense said on the show recently, talking about like a 3D website. I was like, that's such a cool metaphor.
It is. Oh yes. So like a parcel in crypto voxels, yeah, being like a 3D website. It's so clever. Hey, what can you share about like the growth over the last year? Because I think that what happened over the summer is, decentralized finance exploded with lots more people entering the space, lots more money. And as a result, many of us, were aware of how powerful NFTs can be, but I felt like there was a delayed response until later in the summer, like August, when you started to see everyone starting to talk more about like, hey, like if you've made some money in DeFi and if you want to get exposure elsewhere, or if you just want to just take a look at some cool stuff, check out digital art. So I guess like, yeah, what can you share about that journey? Because I would imagine it's been chaotic at SuperRare.
Yeah, it's been super chaotic. So for the majority of the time we've been working on Super is totally bootstrapped. So it's like, work during the day on consulting, and then 6 p.m. you're like, cool, I'm going to start working on SuperRare. So like, 6 to 2 a.m. was, building the SuperRare product. And it's just been unreal growth this year. I think December 2019 was the first year that we did $100,000 in volume. So that was like total sales.
Wow.
And October was the first time that in a month it was $1 million in volume. So just kind of unreal growth this year, which has been super exciting, both for the artists and collectors.
While we talk through some of these questions too, I'm realizing like I should just let me pull up SuperRare so we can, just in case someone is not familiar with it. I want them to see this sooner. And I'm just logging back into MetaMask. Of course, my OPSEC requires me to be logged out every so often.
Yeah.
Now I can't get back in. There we go. All right. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. Cool. And
all right.
Remind everyone, what everything we're checking out here, you can see at superrare.co. So maybe John, you can kind of like walk me through, what we're looking at here, like really like what I think occupies most of my time on SuperRare is if you go to superrare.co, click on market. I mean, this is where you can start to see all of the pieces that are available. You can organize them, of course, by price or by what's been newly released. If you follow artists, you can keep track of when they release a new piece. So like, for example, if I could favorite this so I can come back to it, maybe I'm interested in buying it. And then what everyone's seeing here on the left side is, actually, is this one of your new auctions? Is that?
Yeah, so this is one of the new pieces that are up for auction. So yeah, so it's been a pretty big lift. There's a new set of smart contracts, a new set of notifications and UI components. But yeah, we just launched on Monday on-chain English auctions. So we are super excited about it. This is kind of the limited release this week. Yeah, this Frenetic Void is amazing.
Wow, this is so cool, man. There's so many pieces on here that I could just obsess over. So here, let's just quickly show everyone. There's a few different ways that you could purchase art, and one of those, if I click on this one, so this. There's some simpler ways. You can simply outright buy it. There will be a list price at times, but then you can also make an offer, which is essentially like I'm bidding until the person who owns it, which in this case is the artist, until that person says, "Hey, I accept your bid." Like we could, if we take a look at one of the pieces that I bought. Here we go. Here we go. So this was by Maddie Furious. I think this is the first piece I bought recently. But nice. You can see here in the history, created 4 months ago. I made an offer. Someone else upped the offer. We go back and forth. And eventually Maddie chose to accept it. I mean, really, he could have just sat on it. He takes the risk of me rescinding or taking back my bid. But that used to be the way things work, and now you guys have these clever auctions, which reminds me a lot more of, I don't know what you think of with an auction. Like there's a timer and you only have so much time before it runs out and the highest bidder wins. Is that summing up how it all works?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. So we launched with that kind of offers system. That was basically how you could, is either buy it now or make an offer for the first 2 years. And one thing that we noticed was people would often have kind of like a reserve price. And this pattern was pioneered by Coldy. So one of the early artists on SuperRare, he's a good friend. He would have this reserve price. And then if somebody hit it, he would kick off a 24-hour auction, but he would run it all on Twitter. So if you were on the website, you would have no idea that, something like this was happening. And so inspired by that, we kind of turned that into a feature itself. Wow. And so you can set a reserve price that kicks off a 24-hour auction, or you can schedule one, for next week that will run for approximately 4 days.
Oh, here we go. Are these, and then John, under auction week, are these all of the pieces with this new auction setup?
Yeah, so we decided to kind of do a limited release this week. So we worked with about 16 artists and one collector to test out the new features. And so, yeah, this Android Jones is incredible.
So cool.
But yeah, so there's a limited number of pieces that are on auction this week, and then we're going to open up the feature set for everybody Monday next week.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that is a really powerful feature. Now that, you could at least go into an auction and know that you're going to walk away with an answer within X amount of time. As a creator, I would imagine that's fantastic because they in the past would have had to basically keep betting on people offering a higher price, or like maybe you think about whether you're too greedy and you should just take what you got there.
It's anyone could withdraw the bid, and so it was kind of for both. It's more automated for the artist, right? They could set a reserve price and know that an auction is going to get kicked off, and they don't have to do anything. And then also on the collector side, people would place an offer, and you're like, well, I hope it's good. There wasn't a feedback loop there, and so this kind of makes the process simpler for both parties. Yeah,
so cool, man. Actually, I want to make sure we cover everything on SuperRare, which I know we're kind of like rolling through because it's so visual, and I want to make sure that people get sucked into that, because again, this isn't rocket science. Like, all you got to do is take a look at superrare.co, and you quickly realize there's all this talent that's building, or that's creating there. But John, maybe you could touch on how do you see digital art and DeFi intersecting? This is like a question that comes up a lot from friends in DeFi who don't have exposure to any digital art, and they're thinking a lot about like what's possible. And I'm curious, like, do you have any ideas for like what we could see come together with digital art and DeFi?
Yeah, sure. So, I think one, we've seen a couple experiments with people kind of try to collateralize loans with artworks. And so I think, once we kind of have good appraisal systems, that process will be pretty easy. So you could potentially take out a loan against, a high value piece of art. And another thing that's interesting with the auctions, since these are on chain and the funds are escrowed kind of in the auction itself, you could potentially start to take out a loan against a piece you had up for auction, because you kind of know the funds, or it's like, it's already collateralized. But if you wanted to access that money, before the auction closed, something like that would be pretty simple. And then I think one thing that people have been talking about for a while, and we haven't really seen executed yet, is kind of like an index, right? Some folks are just want to get exposure to the category, and maybe don't feel that they have the eye, or maybe they don't have a lot of time. And so I think if you start thinking about maybe like potentially fractionalizing specific artworks, you could sort of build an index based on either whole pieces or kind of like fractions of other artworks as well.
And is this, John, is any of that stuff that you guys are working on, or would you recommend any projects to check out that are thinking about like fractional ownership and art on Ethereum? Or I think like the one idea that stuck out, we were talking about this before we got on, is that ability to basically take your digital art, have that value recognized by someone, and let you borrow against it, let you potentially use it, let's say like in an index in the future. Like basically all the things that we talk about in DeFi, like they tend to revolve around stores of value. And it's a shocker, I think, for a lot of people to realize that art markets have outperformed the stock market in many instances over the last several decades. So I can't say with digital art, like we're still in a newer, this is all new, and like I'm not sure if the digital art markets will perform the same way that the meat space art markets have. But yeah. So anyways, anything else there that in terms of projects that folks should follow that are building any of those ideas you mentioned?
Yeah, I think one interesting one is like Niftex. So they've started to do fractionalization, which is interesting. And I think one that was called Superfluid was working on potentially, maybe tokenizing royalties. So if people wanted to maybe borrow against future royalties or something like that. So yeah, I think there's interesting experimentation if other folks want to keep pushing the boundaries. I think we'd love to see more projects kind of experimenting there.
Yeah. By the way, as we're walking through this, in case anyone's wondering, my internet has been awful today. So I just want to call out it's not a reflection of the website. If you see me struggling to load at times, it's my own internet. SuperRare has been really dependable when I've been using it. Of another thing here, I guess, as we were kind of talking about that intersection of DeFi and NFTs is, now some of these pieces that I'm pulling up, I arrange them by highest price. Obviously, some of them are kind of like a joke. It's people putting up insane value. Like, hey, if you want to pay me this, sure, of course, I'll give you it. But remind us, John, how much money has SuperRare earned artists? What's the most expensive pieces that have sold? Like, I mean, there's some really impressive numbers behind what you guys have enabled.
Yeah, so to date, artists have earned about $4.5 million selling art on SuperRare, and in the secondary market, we've seen about just over $1 million, kind of in secondary market transactions as well. So that's, the 4.5 million going to artists is definitely something myself and the whole team is very proud of. It's really cool to see a concept come into the real world, and then also be sort of like serving the purpose that you hoped it would. And
what can you share about the artists that you work with on SuperRare? Are you seeing folks leave like a form of art that they were creating previously that wasn't digital, or do we just have more native digital artists that are popping up now? Because it goes back to this idea of this art to me. And by the way, I just pulled up crypto voxels. We'll hop into like some galleries here in a moment. But when you're looking at what's on SuperRare, I've explained to my wife and to friends, so I'm buying some digital art because first off, I just think it's cool, and I do want to like collect some cool art. But I think it's smarter the way that I can store it. I store it the way I store my crypto. So I do have to be careful that I know how to custody, an NFT, just like an ERC20 token. But I don't have to like necessarily find a way to display it. I can move it with me easily. There's no way for someone to deface the art that I own, or like there's no concern that the art that I own, like a physical piece, like
you're not gonna have like your garage flood and get water damage.
Exactly. So just curious, like what are you seeing then with artists that are coming onto SuperRare? I guess the original question was, are there more digitally native artists, or have you seen more people making the leap to create art digitally because they see the future of it here?
Yeah, so it's definitely both, but I think there's like there's a huge group of artists who are not really part of the contemporary art market. So like if you think about our current art market, it's like a very small number of collectors and a very small number of artists who are like really participating and making those big numbers. And there's really no tail whatsoever. So like no one's collecting data about any part of the long tail. Like that part of the market just essentially doesn't exist. And so with digital, there were a lot of folks who, have been artists for decades, really have a true craft, but just never were like playing the contemporary art. Like they didn't want to deal with like going to Art Basel and like, not that there's anything wrong with going to Art Basel. Like art fairs are super fun, but just like that's not for everybody. Like a lot of people are more comfortable behind their computer than going out and doing something like that. And so I think what kind of crypto art and digital art really unlock is sort of access to this pattern in this market that's been around for a very long time, which is a lot of collectors and artists weren't really participating because the sort of like the user interface or like the UX wasn't what everybody wanted to do.
Before I do hop into crypto voxels, can you tell us more about the fact that you have a greater transparency here? Like this is art that anyone, they can view the history of. Again, if I go back to like this one here, it's listed. You can buy it for all that ether, but someone last bought it for 2 ether. So this is, I guess, correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but like this little history alone is a huge difference from what we see in legacy art markets. Like this is everything here. When someone, not only when they made it, which is verified by like what's there on the blockchain, but what offers have been made, what was accepted,
who made them, right? Like
who made it, the price, even what you have in parentheses here. What I really love is it shows the price in US dollars here according to what was the price of ether then. So
yeah.
You'll look back and go, oh my God, like they paid X amount, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, ether was only $100 at that time.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, no, it's a huge thing. And so in the art world, they use the term provenance. So it's basically like, what is this artwork? When was it created? Who created it? Has it been exhibited anywhere? Who's owned it? What was paid for it? And all that data is proprietary. So there's basically these proprietary data providers. An example of one is ArtNet. So that's probably one of the more famous ones. But you need a subscription to access the data. And they don't keep data about the majority of artists, right? It's like, it's expensive. They need to be, there's costs for them to update and aggregate the information. And what's interesting with NFTs is the data is being generated in real time by the market participants. So there's just way more high quality data about this type of art. And so that's another reason why I think this market's going to be so much bigger, is just the contemporary art market's kind of restricted itself because they've chosen to go this proprietary data model. It's, most people don't have access to it. There's not very much. And here it's kind of like the inverse of that.
Just nuts. It's really, it's something just in the last year I became aware of this thing called Masterworks, and they actually, part of their value, which it's not built on Ethereum, it's like fractional ownership in art, and they should do it on Ethereum. That would make all of it work better. But the database they talk about having available for their members is like a selling point. And so, anytime we knock down barriers, anytime we take asymmetric information, we make it available to everyone, it's going to attract more and more users. Like there's nothing like this anywhere in the world except for on Ethereum right now, to be able to, buy digital art, and to be able to like observe this market activity. It's fascinating to me to kind of I look at it daily right now. I just look through a few pieces, look at like what people are offering. And I've been told, and I'm wondering if you can fill me in on this. I've been told that like things are just nuts right now compared to like a year ago. I guess, do you have any trends or like data points you can share about, I don't know, maybe like the average price of a piece selling on SuperRare, or anything else to basically help us to understand like how many more people are in this market, how many more people are buying and creating digital art?
Yeah, so I think right now we have on average like about 1,000 collectors or so every month, and that's somebody who's like trying to make a purchase or something, like placing a bid. So that's we define a collector as like anybody who's trying to make a financial transaction. This is an amazing piece. I just saw this morning.
Cool. Yeah, so cool. And people might not realize a lot of these have sound. So freaking cool. And that, gosh, is this the same oh yeah. This is a famous piece here, the one that they made, right? This was like displayed in like a COVID, there was some sort of like COVID art showcase.
Art exhibition, yeah.
So cool. I mean, like, look at that. I just cannot unsee like what you see here, and like how could people not eventually, if you're into art, or even if you're not into art, like these are rare individual pieces that that people are clearly valuing. All you have to do is look at the market activity. Someone made an offer of 1.15 ether, which was worth $662. I mean, and this is like a dime a dozen. Not to say this art in particular, but that price is a dime a dozen there in SuperRare. There's so many pieces selling for so much more money.
Yeah, I think the average right now is about 1,200, and
really, wow.
Yeah, that's the average price, and then I think the highest price that anyone's paid is 87,000.
Holy cow! And wait, is that the what is the name of that artist? Or like, it's not a.
It was the little Michaela piece.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. And can you remind everyone, in case they don't know who that is, like he, she, they are they were created by someone, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of what's the proper term for it. It's like an avatar, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of like a robot. It's like a CGI character, and yeah. So we partnered with them so they auctioned off the piece of art it went to I believe it is Black Girls Who Code, and yeah. So that's it's kind of interesting, right? It's like, and it was definitely controversial. Like, some people loved it, some people hated it, which I think is good art often invokes emotion both ways. But it's definitely fascinating. I think it's it's asking questions about like what is art, what does it mean when we do you can like have an internet persona technically that could like live forever. Like it's definitely a weird time as we enter deeper into the metaverse.
Yeah. I recently was looking at this thing called Alethea.ai, and you can create avatars like Lil Michaela, if I'm saying that correctly, and it's cool because you think about like you could bring to life like animated Star Wars characters, but you also can create avatars of people who are alive today. You can also create avatars of people who are no longer alive, and it starts to beg the question of like, in the metaverse or in whatever universe, eventually, like, will we have John Lennon performing, and like, could you ultimately have people paying to see like an avatar of John Lennon? And I think the answer is yes. Like, I think
yeah,
that it's available. Like this to me was mind blowing to see this. I just was like, whoa, like this sold for how much money? Like, wow, like someone put up that much ether, and I mean that's while prices of ether have been going up. So this isn't a time where you see people just selling ether or giving it up for something else very easily. This is someone who believes that this is worth that much more money, or I guess maybe it's just a special piece and they want to own it.
Well, yeah. So I think it was the guys at Divergence Ventures, and I think what's interesting with art is to me, this is sort of like a historically important piece, right? It's kind of like the first time that you have this character kind of like tokenizing like this, and so that's I think when and even in kind of like the contemporary art market, when you see some of these incredible prices, it's often when, it's a historical event, so to speak. And so I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I realize too, we're probably going to run out of time here soon, but just want to quickly remind everyone, Crypto Voxels, you can enjoy buying and selling art or just admiring it there on SuperRare. But this is one of the places where, you see it displayed and where like the value of digital art becomes that much more real. Is there any place in Crypto Voxels that you'd recommend I just pop into?
Oof, that's a tough call. I mean, there's
so many. It's like, we can just click through one here and zoom around. I really love Matthew from Sense. I love his display of art. Actually, let's just click on this.
Yeah, I should have came prepared. I think we still have our like space themed gallery exhibit up, but I didn't grab that link before.
Oh yeah. Wait, what's the name of it though? Like you can normally like look it up pretty easily.
Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, I can let you share your screen too. So here we go, everyone. Like, just, yeah, here is a gallery of, I think these are Rarible related stuff, or I think it's just whatever. It's a collection of art that highlights stuff that looks like credit cards. So pretty cool. And the best part about this is you can just roam in CryptoVoxels and check this all out. And if you end up clicking on these pieces of art, you can end up, in many cases, you can make an offer on it if you'd like to buy it. But I tend to just roam.
All right. Yeah, I'm having trouble finding the link, but I'll send it over to you after the call. Yeah, it's fun to just walk around, right? It's like, because it's kind of ever changing. So.
Oh, here we go. Here's a nice wall of art. So, I mean, this is everywhere in CryptoVoxels. So, why not enjoy this? We're all stuck inside. Like, this is a really special thing to know about, I think. And if you have an internet connection, you have a laptop, like, that's all you need, and you can hop in here and really enjoy yourself. John, I want to wrap up here, but anything else that you think folks should know about digital art or SuperRare, or anything for us to keep our eyes on related to NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you haven't checked it out, I'd say, don't knock it before you try it. I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's, they've never really tried to collect art before and are like, this doesn't make any sense. I want to be able to, store the art and hide it away. But, it does feel, very tactile and tangible when you buy a piece of digital art, even though the art itself is sort of, in the ether. So if you haven't tried it out, I'd recommend doing so. And yeah, just come hang out in the Discord. I think there's that's where a lot of conversation happens that you can't see on the website. So
that's exactly the whole, like, don't knock it till you try it. I've been on that journey of like, wait, what is this? And like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm a pretty like open-minded person normally, so I've never found myself thinking, what's the point of digital art? But then you look and you're like, whoa, like, I mean, this is art that's alive, and I really like, I do appreciate the still pieces, but I really do enjoy the animations and all the other creative things that people do. I don't even know what to classify it as, because like when you look at like SuperRare, if you look at one of the pieces I bought by Maddie Furious, I mean, I don't know, like, how to actually classify. Let me just share my screen again. I'm not sure how to classify what this is, but I just think it's really cool. Like, I've got this piece here, Equilateral, that's by Maddie, and then also this one here, eth_.mp4.
I'd call it like glitch collage, probably, if I was gonna give it a category. But
this is a style I'm into. I've discovered I really love this sort of stuff. Anyways, I'm a sucker for anything with ether in it, and there's a lot of ether prisms and a lot of art, so it's kind of dangerous. But well, hey everyone, make sure you follow SuperRare on Twitter. Follow John at SuperRare John on Twitter. Check out SuperRare at superrare.co. And gosh, reach out to the team there in their Discord and just get on there. Like, it's so cool. Start small. Like, if you can afford to put in 0.02 ether into a piece, it could be a little bit challenging right now, but I do think that there are pieces that are showing up that you can potentially get for under 0.1 ether, 0.5, or not 0.1, 0.05 as well. I've noticed some pieces selling, but it's it's just such a cool thing. So anyways, John, thanks so much for your time, man, and just just keep on doing the good work you do.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. This is a super fun conversation, so we'll have to do it again.
I was going to say, would love to have you back. This is just like, anytime you guys have new features, especially, or even if another thing too is if you ever want to do a special showcase with some artists, we could have you come on and help to interview some of the artists.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of show off like new collections. Like, this is just it's cool. And that's what Yield TV, we just want to support all the cool stuff being built on Ethereum. So anyways, everyone will be off tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday with another episode of Yield TV. So thanks so much for watching. And yeah, John, have a great day, buddy. Great to see you.
Same to you. Bye, everybody.